2022. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Forster.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Councilmember Wills.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you all please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. We have a couple of proclamations to give this evening. One is for National Public Works Week, and I'd like to read that proclamation if I could. Whereas public works infrastructure, facilities, and services are of vital importance to sustainable communities and to the health, safety, and well-being of the people of Raymar, and whereas such facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees from the state and local units of government and the private sector who are responsible for and must plan, design, build, operate, and maintain the transportation, water supply, sewages, and refuse disposal systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential to serve our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest of the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the United States of America to gain knowledge of and to maintain an interest and understand the importance of public work and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2022 marks the 62nd annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, now therefore I, Christopher P. Turnbow, Mayor of the City of Raymar, Missouri, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15 through 21, 2022 as National Public Works Week in the City of Raymar, Missouri, and urge all citizens to recognize the importance of our Public Works Department and the substantial contributions they make to our health, safety, and welfare, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Raymar to be affixed to this 9th day of May 2022. And as Michael steps forward, we've had a lot of challenges over the past, especially the winter season here, and you guys did a phenomenal job. All of us received kudos about our public works efforts. I know we've had a couple of water main breaks. You guys are quick getting on at fixing them and getting people service back to them. And Michael, those are just a few things. And we just really appreciate all the hard work that you and your team does. So thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, all right, all right. And we also have another proclamation to recognize National Police Week. I guess you probably wondered why all the police were here in the room tonight. Anyway, whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a law designating May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which that day falls as National Police Week, honoring law enforcement officers throughout our country who perform dangerous and often thankless duties. And whereas by swearing an oath to uphold the law and protect all citizens, police officers selflessly put themselves in harm's way each day and seek to mitigate the threat in dangerous situations while others seek refuge. And whereas during every crisis, officers recognize and accept their critical role in protecting communities at increased personal risk to themselves. And whereas during this time, we must be especially mindful to pay tribute to officers who have given their lives and made the ultimate sacrifice in the performance of those duties, as 101 officers have already done in this year of 2022. And whereas the outstanding officers of the Raymar Police Department are committed through oath and personal fidelity to provide dedicated service and protection for our community, and whereas it is both important and proper that the citizens of Raymar recognize the tremendous duty and responsibility borne by our police officers, not just during this special week, but all throughout the year. Now therefore, I, Christopher P. Turnbow, Mayor of the City of Raymore, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15 through 21, 2022 as National Police Week in the City of Raymore to honor the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Raymore to be affixed this 9th day of May, 2022. Chief, if you could come up here and accept. I want to thank personally all the men and women that are here this evening and those that couldn't be here for our department tonight, and the fine job that the chief is doing. She's, she just received the Police Chief of the Year award. We've been very proud of her. It's a big honor, and I noticed that in the picture it said it's now named after Red Lair, Don Red Lair, who was one of my mentors. He was the police chief in Baldwin since passed, but great guy, and couldn't be a more fitting award that you received because he was a super person. And everyone here who wears the badge, we appreciate everything that you've done over the past years, and those of you that I see here, very familiar faces that I got a chance to work with you. It is with extreme pride that I present this proclamation to the chief, and thank you for your service.
We know I'll never miss the opportunity to say something. So I just want to thank the men and women in the room and all of the other officers who couldn't be here with us tonight, because any recognition that I have gotten, any sort of praise that has been heaped upon the department is because of the hard work that these folks do each and every single day. They make me look good, and it has been my honor to serve with them for the past 10 years.
Thank you, Chief.
So the timing is good. I did not know this was National Police Week, and but my name's Bob Schmidt. I own Aaron's Family Fun Center, and the gentleman back there is Mike Soroka. He's the general manager. So fitting as it may be, we're here to recognize the Raymore Police Department tonight and to thank them for their service. We started back in 2014 a fundraiser at the bowling center, kind of as a challenge more than anything else. And the first year, we raised $7,000. And so we've been going at it, and it's grown into one of our biggest events. It is the biggest event of the year. We probably had, 300 people there in March. We finished the 2022. And it's kind of grown into a big deal. In the years past, prior to 2022, we really focused on our veterans, but this year we wanted to keep more of the money locally, and so we wanted to recognize first responders, and so this year we raised $62,000. So I happened to be in here 4 or 5 months ago and struck up a conversation with one of the officers and just asked him if they had any needs, and we thought we might be buying a canine, but I think that need was met. So we're going to help contribute some money for some training software. But anyway, what's so cool about this is it's the small businesses. So we went to get to this level, we started selling team sponsorships, and it's all the small businesses, with the exception of my good friends at Lowe's. They've been a huge supporter. But it's people that you'd all know in this community that support this fundraiser, and it's really grown. So we had the privilege of donating money to the city of Belton. They are getting a canine, and I think for the city of Raymore, I think they're getting some training software. But anyway, it's neat that the community really rallies around, and we appreciate the hard work they do. Not a lot of recognition. Tough times these days, but by golly, we do. So anyway, with that, Michael, come on up. Can I have Captain Wilson and Chief? We'd like to present a check for $18,000.
That's awesome.
So, you're welcome. So, who gets the real check?
Bob, thank you so much. What a wonderful fundraiser. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right. So we'll all take our seats. And thank you all from the department for being here this evening. It's good seeing you. Guys, take care. We have no personal appearances other than what has transpired. We'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report for Development Services.
Thank you, sir. It's a little difficult to follow all of those presentations, so I'll keep it short this evening for you. April was a bit of a slow month for our department in terms of building activity, just given the amount of rain that we saw. So a lot of sites were just really unbillable for the better portion of this month, but still a good number of home permits that were issued through our building official. The activity has not slowed down there in that regard at all quite this year. But as it relates to ongoing projects, I wanted to provide the council with at least 3 of the major projects that are either wrapping up or kind of getting started. The first one is the construction activity at the South Metro admin facility right next door. And speaking with Mr. Warner, a temporary CO was issued for that last week, and I spoke with the fire marshal here today, and he said he saw people carrying at least one box at a time from one building to the next, kind of moving in. So I think they have a couple landscaping items to wrap up this week and some fencing to finish installing, but that should be done here within the next couple of weeks. So I'm sure the chamber will host a ribbon cutting for that facility here in the next couple of months, so stay tuned for that. Additionally, right next door to that would be the Sunset Plaza, the townhome development here right next door as well. I had a chance to tour some of those units that are finishing construction. And they'll have tenants moving in here within the next couple of weeks as well for the first handful of those units. They continue to do additional site work on kind of the east side of their property, but it's neat to see those properties coming online here in the next couple of weeks as well. And then last but not least would be the Raymar Commerce Center. A lot of progress has happened on building number 3. In the month of April, they've finished or close to finishing the final coat of paint on the outside of that building. We had a conversation with that developer this morning on the roof. They're proceeding forward. A lot of progress being made on the finishing of that building. And in addition, we also issued the permit last month for building 2, which is the middle building at about 500,000 square feet. And so we'll likely see some site work going on that pad site here in the next couple of weeks as well. Additionally, just looking at some upcoming meetings, there are some applications that will eventually make their way to the council. A couple of final plats that our department has been working on in Creekmore, Timber Trail's 3rd plat. Those are actually scheduled for review by the Planning Commission on the 17th of this month, and so later this month the council will see those appear in front of you all for your consideration. I believe that would conclude my staff report this evening. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Gress? Okay, thank you. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Gress. Remind the council that next Monday you have a work session, May 16th. At present time, there are 2 items on the agenda for that work session. Giving the council an outline, we've brought a number of PUDs to the council. Thought we'd have a discussion with the council, kind of a broader discussion about those. And we're also going to be bringing to the council the possibility, if the council is amenable, of looking at a future tree ordinance for the city of Raymar. A couple of other items. So last Tuesday, I did have the privilege, and the mayor has brought it up. Several months ago, the mayor and I had the opportunity to have a discussion about the potential for nominating the chief for Missouri Police Chief of the Year. Mr. Icky and Captain Wilson were very instrumental in helping us write that and get the history without talking to the chief about it because it's actually a surprise to the chief of police if they receive it. So there was a lot of subterfuge work going on there. Ran some of the items past the mayor. He gave final approval. The mayor and I signed off on the application. Kind of figured from the beginning it was going to be a shoo-in because you all know the quality of the chief of police who's sitting next to me. It was pretty much a shoo-in. But what I was surprised to learn during the process, and I think I mentioned it in my email to the council making the announcement last week, is in the more than half a century of this award being given, our chief is the first woman to ever receive this award, which is a real testament to the quality and the dedication to this department and this city and police work in general that she does. So we're awfully proud of her. About a week before the announcement came out, she had come to me and said, we all know I'm going to be retiring. The world knows she's retiring on August 26th. I would rather not have my service plaque, my 10-year service plaque this year. And I agreed to that because I knew that it would end up being a 2-for-1 when we did turn these in. So this is actually the Top Cop Award. And this is, as the mayor had indicated, the official award. And then if funding starts to get a little rough, we'll go ahead and raffle off the license plate at some time in the future, because it's actually a real license plate.
I just
Doggone
want to
it.
put that on my car.
So thanks to the mayor for supporting us, putting in this application, and obviously, thank you, Chief, for everything you have done for 10 years for this city. Well deserved. Thank you.
Amen.
And do you have anything you want to say on that? No, I didn't figure you would. My last item, very bittersweet tonight, will be Mr. Ickey's final meeting in front of the council. And he told me today that he feels it's fitting that this be a regular meeting and he can go out on a more of an official note than a normal work session of the council. So he's constantly thinking about that before he heads to Blue Springs, where I have a feeling things will be much different than here for a few months. That concludes staff reports tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Any questions of staff?
Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda this evening, and that's the city council minutes for April the 25th. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the consent agenda for item A, City Council minutes for April 25th, 2022.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3717 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3717 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymar, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Missouri Department of Social Services Family Support Division.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3717, intergovernmental agreement with the Department of Social Services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3717. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3715 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3715 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Little Sports Shop to provide screen printing and embroidery services.
Thank you. If there are no further questions on this issue, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3715, award of contract to Little Sports Shop, screen printing and embroidery.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3715. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3716 by title only, please?
The second reading of Bill 3716 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Pepsi Beverages Company to provide beverage vending and supply services.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3716, award of contract to Pepsi Beverages Company, beverage and vending and supply services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3716. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3720 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3720 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract to purchase 40 acres of undeveloped property located west of Missouri 291 Highway and south of 225th Street in Cass County, Missouri, in the amount of $350,000.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3720, contract for real estate purchase, firing range property.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3720. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3711 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3711 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the taxable industrial revenue bonds watermark project, Series 2022, related to a commercial development project in the city and authorizing the city to enter into certain agreements and take certain other actions.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3711, watermark at Raymar, Chapter 100, bond issuance and development agreement.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3711. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? 7 yes, 1 no. Motion carries. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3713 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3713 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Sands Construction, LLC for the West Hawk Ridge Park improvements in the amount of $480,070.85.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council, tonight I am presenting a recommendation for a contract with Sands Construction for the improvements at West Hawk Ridge Park. This was one of the projects that was approved with the 2020 GEO bond project. This is an area of the park that is heavily used by our department in terms of athletic fields and soccer and special events. In desperate need of some improvements on the parking lot, and I think that the improvements that we've included in this project, the residents are really going to enjoy with the trails and the irrigation of those fields and just the improvements of the soccer. This was bid out earlier this year. We did receive 4 bids. Sands Construction did come in as the lowest, best, and most qualified company that we researched, and we are here to recommend Sands Construction for this project. I'm happy to answer any questions. The amount of the contract is $480,000 or $70.85, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Mr. Mustine? Yes, Mr. Holman.
Mr. Messina, I'm pretty sure I know this, but just so that there's no confusion, this is not part of the GEO bond improvements that will be going on at Hawk Ridge. That's a separate issue, correct?
There's actually 2 projects.
Yes,
There's
sir.
the east side, and this would be the west side.
I knew that. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood. Thank you, sir.
So 2 projects not part of the GEO bond.
They're both GEO bond projects. They're 2 separate budgeted projects that were passed. The east side projects we're working on now. We'll bring that to the council later.
Okay.
This is the west side, so this is the first of the Hawk Ridge improvements
Okay.
that were approved.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note the level of detail in the contract is very detailed, and I appreciate that because in my belief, that would cause a few companies to not provide a bid if they don't want to do the level of quality work that we want to have done. And so I think that level of detail is very well put into this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Mustine.
Thank you.
If there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3713, award of contract to Sands Construction LLC, West Hawk Ridge Park improvements.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3713. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3714 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3714 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2021 capital budget.
Is there a staff report?
Thanks, sir. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council, I want to apologize. Mr. Martinez here is from Sands Construction. I wanted to recognize him for being here tonight, so he's a representative from Sands Construction. The agenda item before you now is a budget amendment for this particular project. Anytime a project of this size, there's obviously things that go into the building of this project that include design, geotech services, construction documents, bidding services that are all contributed to the project. Because of those things, once we got the construction contract in, we were over budget. And so tonight's budget amendment is to allocate to fund $60,000 of unallocated GeoBond project money that was for parks for this project to help fully finance this project. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3714, budget amendment, West Hawk Ridge Park improvements.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3714. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3718 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3718 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Aquatic Control, Inc. to provide pond and lake management services.
And staff report.
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this agenda item.
We're getting close, a couple more. So this particular item is a contract for obviously the pond and lake services. This is to help keep them clean, to keep them looking good, vegetation at bay so that they're nice when folks come to the parks. We bid this project out, or this contract out. We did receive 2 bids. Aquatic Control Services did come in as the lowest best bidder. We have interviewed and walked on site, very confident in them. Mr. Whitaker is here tonight representing his company, and we do recommend this contract, and I'm happy to answer any questions. It's pretty cut and dry on this one.
Okay. Do we have weed control in that? I noticed that, a few times I've walked around a lake. I didn't know if we were getting a handle on that or not.
Yeah, it's just that time of year, so it's growing a little aggressively now. We are obviously in between services. We have our current contract.
I didn't mean the weeds around the outside of the lake. I'm talking about the actual.
That is what this contract takes care of.
Oh, okay.
This
All
is
right,
in the
perfect.
water
Oh, okay.
service.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Did you have a question?
I was curious as to the trash pickup. I saw that they'll do that a couple times. Is that also whenever there's the organized by the city trash pickup, is that added onto, or is that in conjunction with?
This is an additional service. Any of those projects or scout projects, Girl Scout projects, or church projects, those are all separate that we're doing in addition to what this contract provides.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3718, award of contract to Acoustic Control Incorporated for pond and lake management services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3718. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3719 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3719 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with McClure Engineering Company for the Centerview Detention Area Design Project in the amount of $29,200.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Yes, sir. I would call on Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this agenda item.
It was a big park board meeting the last time. This particular contract is for a GeoBond project that was approved by voters for behind Centerview, the landscaping in the detention stormwater areas behind Centerview. If you've been back there recently, you'll notice the new boardwalk that is back there. This design what the boardwalk overlooks. And so this particular contract is with the McClure Engineering Company, and they will help us figure out what needs to go down there, design those things for us, and work with city staff, with engineering and stormwater, and provide a design that we'll bring back to the council. Later, after that, we'll bid that project out as a whole separate project this fall. So this is for the design services of that.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Mustine? Mr. Holman?
It's actually for Mr. Fearborn. I just wondered if we should have Mr. Gibbs here as a relief pitcher in the bullpen. You're kind of relying pretty heavy on your starter tonight, sir.
Anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Burke. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say I appreciated the part in here where we're going to make it a monarch resting way place, which is one of the people I eat lunch with almost every day, spends a lot of time trying to make one at the high school, and he says his dream is to get it to look the shape of a monarch eventually on Google Maps. So I'm definitely going to be telling him about the details when we get these designs.
There you go.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
We do have Jim Schuessler here tonight representing McClure, so I just want to recognize them. These guys
Okay.
have come a long way to be here tonight for us, so
All right.
thank you.
Thank you for being here. Anybody have any questions of staff or the engineer? If not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3719, award of contract to McClure Engineering Company for the Centerview Detention Area Design.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3719. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have the first reading of Bill 3722 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3722 by title only, an ordinance authorizing and directing submission to the voters of the City of Raymore, Missouri at the election of August 2, 2022, the proposal to authorize the imposition of a use tax for general revenue purposes at a rate equal to the current sales tax rate of 2.5% in the City of Raymore, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
For the final time, sir, I will ask Mr. Icky to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council. The item in front of you tonight is the authorization to place the question on the ballot. Two things you may notice. One, the ballot language compared to the ballot language from last year simplified and shortened a little bit. So really the legislature, for as much as they went in and tinkered with this last year, really helped clarify that ballot language that the council will hopefully be authorizing. The second item you may notice are the question marks on the title itself. Staff had a discussion about what to title this and our hopes to really communicate what this item or what the use tax when collected and if approved by voters would be going for. One of the items we had discussed is calling it question P for police, parks, public works, and possibly even in the future the use of it for pavement or pavement reconstruction. really something simple that I think voters would be able to use in our information campaign, and something that would resonate as we did last time with the use tax informational campaign, focusing on, the public safety department, public works maintenance, and the parks maintenance. Really wanted to clarify, much like we did in the ballot language, or much like the legislature did in the ballot language, what exactly that use tax revenue would be going for. I'm happy to answer any questions before the council.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Ike? I know that I had asked you to look into the use of the term Wayfair, since for years the state talked about it being a Wayfair tax, because Wayfair, being an online organization, was not charging sales tax for the items that they sold. And so they kind of gave it that item. But because of the specificity of the ballot language that's necessary, what we have proposed before us tonight, we still have to talk about it as a local use tax. But for people that might not understand what that particular verbiage means, it's basically an online tax, a Wayfair tax that imposes a local sales tax to those purchases made online. Kind of what we have always said, it kind of levels the playing field with our local businesses here. But entertain any other questions that might be of staff on this. I know we've talked a lot about it at work session. I didn't know if anybody else had anything. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Just a question kind of based on what you said. So I remember when we talked about this first, the taxing of online purchases is a piece of it, but actually budget-wise even a bigger piece would be taxes on construction materials. Is that correct or incorrect?
It is a tax that is currently not being imposed that would be equal to the sales tax, and it would apply to, by the language, out-of-state purchases and online purchases by our citizens. Construction, if that's an out-of-state purchase that's going on, yes.
Anyone else? If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3722, calling for the August 2nd, 2022 online use tax election.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3722. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3721 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3721 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymar, Missouri, directing the city manager to initiate the procedures required pursuant to Chapter 523 of the revised statutes of Missouri for the acquisition of all necessary rights-of-way, temporary easements, and permanent easements to complete the Ward Road Improvement Project, Project 360-201.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Zer to make a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mayor, members of the council. You have before you this evening a proposed ordinance that is based upon the August 4th, 2020 citizen vote to approve the issuance of general obligation bonds for street and park improvements, including the complete reconstruction of Ward Road. The city has completed the necessary engineering work for the improvements, which will include reconstruction and widening of the roadway, installation and improvement of storm sewer controls, and installation of sidewalks and trails to improve the safety for both pedestrians and motorists alike. The city has accepted a bid for the completion of the project, which will require the acquisition of additional right-of-way, temporary easements, and permanent easements. Staff has been diligently working on negotiating for the purchase of the easements and right-of-way since November of 2021. City staff has had limited success in these efforts, however, to date. In order to maintain the timely completion of the project and to obtain the necessary right-of-way and easements in a fiscally responsible manner, city staff is seeking authorization to initiate the eminent domain procedures authorized by Chapter 523 of the revised statutes of Missouri for each of the properties along Ward Road that will be required to have easements and right-of-way in order to complete the project. I would note that there is a cooperative agreement with the county on this matter, and there is nothing that will stop the city and continued efforts by staff to negotiate an agreed upon price during the course of this. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
And what is the actual number of properties involved in this?
I'm going to look down the aisle at Mr. Kras to provide input on that one.
12 properties, sir.
12 pieces of property, okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If city staff would just, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking really to essentially to increase our easement from 30 foot of the center line to 40 foot of the center line. That's really the biggest ask we have here. Is that correct?
Mr. Krass. That's correct, sir.
And there are no dwellings, there are no buildings that are being torn down during this process. We're simply asking for an additional 10 feet to properly put in this road, the ditches, and the trails that the citizens voted for.
That's
Is that correct? Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions of staff? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3721, Ward Road in eminent domain property acquisition, Chapter 523.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3721. Any further discussion? Ms. Forster.
I just would like to say, I love the idea of this project, fixing the road and putting in the multi-use path and the sidewalks. I have concerns in the sense of that a majority of this is in county, that it's not necessarily Raymar, and in the city limits anyway. And also, I would just prefer to come to an agreement outside of eminent domain. I struggle with forcing people to take a offer, whether it's fair or not, pushing. I struggle with that. So I just wanted to voice my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Holman.
So we just remind everyone that this is fulfilling a promise made to the voters. The transportation section of the project's passed with an overwhelming in excess of 80%. This project alone, if it were voted on separately, I would suggest would go in excess of 90%. It was probably the most popular project on here. This is something that's necessary to fulfill that promise to the voters to make that road better and safer for everyone. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd dovetail on that as well. Mr. Holman and I were at Foxwood Springs this morning on their television station, and 90% of the conversation was about transportation. And so folks are expecting, wanting, and want to see this council and this city improve the transportation in Raymar.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? We have 7 yes, 1 no. Motion carries. Could I please have the reading of Resolution 2215 by title only?
The reading of Resolution 2215 by title only, a resolution of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Raymore and the Festival in the Park, Inc. Committee for the 2022 Festival in the Park event.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Back for an encore performance, I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a report on this agenda item.
All right.
Happy to do so, sir. Mayor, members of the council, tonight is the annual Memorandum of Understanding between the city and the Festival in the Park Committee. This basically outlines their rental of Memorial Park for September 22nd through the 24th for the annual festival. Specifically within this, provides details on the in-kind services that the city provides, which is $5,000 is budgeted. We estimate about $4,500, and that is to pay my staff overtime and to work throughout that event to provide services that support the committee. Happy to answer any questions. There's no real changes from last year's other than dates specific to the event. So happy to answer any questions, sir.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Holman.
Mr. Mustine, Mr. Freeborn, I rescind my previous comment. He's pitching a no-hitter, sir.
Only that were true.
Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to clarify, there's always some discussion and questions that Raymore Festival in the Park is not affiliated with the city. They're their own entity. They just use our services and use our space and staff, and just like this MOU says.
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion on this item, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve Resolution 2215, Raymar Festival in the Park Memorandum of Understanding.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve Resolution 22-15. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to the public comment section. If anyone from the public would like to address the council this evening, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one come forward, we'll go to mayor-council communication, and I will start with, who shall I start with this evening? Mr. Berenson, we'll start with you tonight, sir.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that. I'm unprepared, but I'll go anyway. I'll start really quickly. Again, I did vote no on one issue tonight, and I'll just leave it at, I believe it's not what my constituents want, and we'll leave that at that. There's about 1 million other things I could address, and I'm sure my constituents will. The awards handed out tonight, congratulations, Mr. Crass, to you and your entire staff. You do a fantastic job. Chief, congratulations to all the awards and accolades for yourself. And again, your staff does an amazing job, and it's from your leadership, obviously. So you will be missed too. We're sorry to hear that you will be retiring. Mr. Icky, we'll be missing you as well too, but you're only, 40 minutes away. So I'm sure we'll cross paths again soon. So good luck, and I'm sure you'll do a fine job in Blue Springs. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I'm glossing over here. Really enjoyed the presentation from Aaron's Family Fun Center. That's really cool to hear. I mean, that kind of almost gave me chills to hear that 60, how much did they raise this year? 62,000. Okay, I wrote it down right. I was like, maybe I wrote that wrong, but that's correct. That's a lot of money to raise, so glad it's going to a good use, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll also echo Mr. Berenson's comments. Excellent city council meeting tonight. A lot of good things coming out of the Parks Department. You guys were busy last night. To Chief, outstanding. It's kind of like, duh. We knew you were the top cop, in the city of Raymar, and just finally took them a while to recognize that, officially. So again, outstanding, and a fitting way, to put a cap on your career here at Raymar. And we appreciate your service to the community. It's definitely been beneficial. And to Mr. Icky, again, I think when I came on the council, you were the communications manager, I believe it was, and you've matriculated through the chain of command up to assistant city manager. And I think Mr. Gress is eyeing for Mr. Fearborn's seat here as he keeps moving up and on. But again, it's a testament to all the staff, and again to Mr. Icky, yourself as well, for doing what you do, and how you do it allows you the opportunity to move on to Blue Springs. We're going to miss you. I'll probably see you in some transportation meeting, because your boss now is also the chair of that committee, so outstanding. Still looking forward to do great things in the community. And to Aaron's, that's outstanding. When I heard the $62,000, I was expecting that check, but we do appreciate the $18,000 that they did donate, because they shared the love with the communities around us, so that's outstanding. That they took the time and cared enough to do that, and the businesses that also supported them in doing that, that was also a testament to the community, and it's outstanding to see. They would have business owners and residents in the community who think more than of themselves and look out for our first responders in our police department at a time where that seems to be a challenge, as the mayor has said, and obviously you feel the impacts of that as well. Trying to hire the next generation of first responders is pretty difficult right now, and so we do thank them for that effort, and we thank all of those who currently serve and hold true to their task in that regard. And I believe I've said my piece on all those things. So again, thank you to everybody. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Forster.
I'm going to jump the bandwagon. Chief Zimmerman, it's been a true pleasure and honor. Anytime we've called you guys, you have always been more than willing to do anything for anything community oriented. You're on board. You're not even on board. You're willing to take over. So, and you deserve top cop. Like, you not just earned it, you walk it out, you teach it. So it truly is. You've brought up great people, I believe. So thank you very much. And then Hawk Ridge, heck yeah. I'm glad we're starting to get on that. And then with the walking trail, looks great. I couldn't believe it when I saw 10 feet. I'm hoping it'll stay 10 feet. No. And then also the more parking, because anytime any of the soccer games out there, I mean, it is a madhouse. So I'm very excited to see all that. So thank you very much. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll finish off to my right. Mr. Barber, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I got a lot of people to thank for their service in the city. I think I'll start with the chief. I know you're retiring. I know we're losing you. But are you really retiring? Are you just changing where you come in the morning to different places? I figured that. And that's why you are the top cop, and you truly are. And we've been blessed to have you, and this city is better because of your service, and I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Public Works, I mean, we can't live without Public Works. I mean, great department. You guys do an excellent job. You can't back out of my driveway with a good street and a good curve and all of that. And then our Raymar PD. If we didn't have our PD department, we couldn't live either. I mean, he would want to live here. So those two are very fitting that we recognize them for everything they do. Mr. Icky, you are going to be missed. And Mr. Murdoch's going to have big shoes to fill. I mean, really big shoes to fill. Literally big shoes to fill. But I haven't forgot when I was Mayor Pro Tem, you wrote a couple speeches for me. And so I owe you some favors. Anything you need from me, you did a great job. And thank you. You do excellent at what you do. So thanks again for your service. And then I kind of ending with Mr. Schmidt coming and presenting us with $18,000. Wasn't that a treat? I mean, you know what, when you just think that the world it can't get any worse, and then something like that comes in and you go, you know, there are some fabulous people out there that care. I'm sure that business that takes a lot of time and energy and costs him lots of money to do something like that, and for him to do something like that is extremely from the heart, and that doesn't go unnoticed. I'm not a bowler, but I may start bowling. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. It's going to sound like a broken record, but thanks and congrats to both Public Works and PD. Fine organizations, run by fine people, the work done by fine people, and we've said it time and time again, but it never gets old, and it shows every day. Very clear, great stuff. Congrats to the chief. Like everybody else has said, the state now knows what we all already knew, of course. Thank you and goodbye to Mr. Icky. The city of Blue Springs is getting one of our finest, and they owe us. And thank you to Bob Schmidt, who happens to be my next door neighbor. He lives across the street from me. He is a good man. The man has been a builder, among other things, for a number of years all around the area in different places, and he's about community. He's a good guy. I would kind of tie all this together with all of this. We recognize the individual contributions, we recognize the awards and the accolades, but in the overall picture, it's about the culture that we have created here, about what Raymar is and what the culture of the staff is that Mr. Fearborn started instituting some years ago. And it has made this one of the finest cities, if not the finest city in the metro area. Sir, you can be proud every day when you get to work and every night when you go to sleep. This is a great place, and you and your staff are responsible for that. I thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you, sir. So tonight's a broken record, but there's so many great things that I guess we just all have to talk about them. I mean, Mr. Schmidt coming with that check for $18,000 was amazing tonight. I happened to be watching the Belton City Council meeting a few weeks ago when he presented them with a sizable check as well. And what's neat is actually with both projects, we'll see our police departments working together with the things that they're purchasing with Mr. Schmidt's money. So that's pretty amazing to know, and for that to happen in our communities. Mr. Icky, best wishes as you move on and out of here. We've enjoyed working with you and wish you well. Chief Zimmerman, wow. The thing about this that I'm most proud of is to know that the first woman ever to get this award has Raymar tied to her name. So congratulations, well deserved, of course. and just so super excited to hear about that award. Public Works, I mean, literally what you guys do is underground. People don't see it, don't pay attention to it most of the time, except when it's not working right, and then it's first on everyone's radar. So I would encourage citizens in the city this week, if you run into someone from Public Works, take a minute, reach out, tell them thank you for what they do that so often gets unnoticed. And then lastly, the one most near and dear to my heart, Peace Officer Memorial Day is next Sunday. And while Police Week is a time to take a moment and appreciate the work that our men and women do to protect us in our city every single day, take a minute next week or this week and recognize a police officer and a public works worker. But next Sunday, just take a minute and say a prayer for the families of the fallen officers. That's what this really Peace Officer Memorial Day is about. The mayor said in the proclamation 101 already this year, but the number for last year for 2021 was 458 officers killed in the line of duty. So next Sunday, take a minute and say a prayer for their families. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Wills.
Thank you, sir. I also wanted to say thank you to our first responders. It is a thankless job, and I'm glad that we're able to acknowledge them with the National Police Week. I also wanted to say thank you to Mr. Schmidt with Aaron's Family Fund Center. The $18,000 donation is phenomenal, and I agree with what everyone has said about that's just takes a lot of time and effort on their end to do something so kind for our community. So I think that that's fantastic. I am very excited about the progress of Building 3 in the Raymar Commerce Center. I can't wait to see that area buzzing with business. I think it's going to be really great for Raymar. So thank you very much to Chief Zimmerman for going above and beyond for our community and also for setting such an amazing example for young women. So thank you very much. Also, Mr. Icky, thank you for your time and work in Raymore, and good luck to you in Blue Springs. And I'm sure that you will do amazing things for them just as you have done for us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd echo everyone's comments to all the individual awards, and I've had conversations with you individually, and you know how I feel. But some of the people that we don't necessarily have conversations with every day are dealing with some serious stuff this week. It is 90 degrees. Last week, some of those people were having to do jobs where you can't wear gloves, and at the end of the day, you got to get that lock, you got to get that key into that metal lock and that metal chain to lock up the gates, and your hands are freezing. And this week, we're in 90 degrees. Same thing, though, with the police, because of their uniforms. It's not a good time to be a police officer just because of the temperature. And it's very difficult. I've done a lot of maintenance work for a couple different public organizations, and you just got to go, and it doesn't matter what the weather's doing. You got to do the job, and it just has to be done. And we appreciate the fact that a lot of people do a lot of great work in this country, but they don't have to deal with the elements every day, and we definitely, I don't think that's appreciated because so much of us spend every second in air conditioning. I think that's missed on a lot of people. So I appreciate the actual sweat.
Thank you, sir. When you get elected mayor, especially if you come from law enforcement, like I did, you begin to realize how important all the departments of the city are, not just the police department. Although it's still my number one priority. We were able to recognize both this evening, and I'm talking about Public Works. They do so much for the life of this city and what it looks like, how it feels, how people get to and from things, how we keep our community clean. It's very important, and it's always an honor for me to read those two proclamations, as well as the proclamations that we might have later in the year for the other departments that we so desperately appreciate here within our community. But it is always an honor for me, and Chief, especially an honor this evening with on the coattails of your award. That's pretty amazing. There's over 500, I think there's like 530, 540 police chiefs here in the state of Missouri, and you were selected. to be that top cop this year. And that's quite an honor. And I had no doubt when we were nominating you that you would win it, given all of the accolades that you've had and all your accomplishments over the years, and continuing to do in your support of the SAFE program and serving the state of Missouri. We appreciate everything that you've done and all that you're about to do as well. And Michael, we're going to miss you. You've been a confidant, a friend, someone to bounce ideas off of other than Mr. Fearborn, because he gets too many lumps sometimes, so I come bounce them off of you. But they're getting a great, a sweet deal over there at Blue Springs. I hope they understand that and realize it and appreciate it. I'll be reminding Mayor Ross on a regular basis of how good they have it. But anyway, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for that. By the way, Chief, what is the training software that we're getting?
We've actually been in negotiations and having some presentations to our staff on virtual reality. And so these are, much like the training.
FATS machines?
Well, like the
similar
FATS
to that?
machines, but these are like disturbance calls.
Excellent.
The officers have the opportunity to make judgment calls about the call that's unfolding in front of them. It's basically a headset that the officers are wearing, and we're able to do that on all different types of calls, but also on shoot, don't shoot scenarios, and it's a virtual reality firing range as well. So shows them the placement of their shots and all that's very, very high tech, and we've been working with Axon.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for that. I was wondering what it was. I thought it was that, but it seems to be a lot more than what I was envisioning. So thank you for that. Anyway, I have nothing further this evening other than to wish you the best, and you the best too, Michael. Mr. Fearborn, do we need to go into executive session?
We do not, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we adjourn from the regular city council meeting for May the 9th.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to adjourn from the May 9th regular meeting. All those in favor? We have 8 yeses. We are adjourned.